Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you very much. Well, I am so glad to be back here and seeing faces that I haven't seen in a while. Even though you normally would say that as Sharon, but I get a chance to see her every week. So, so I have a feeling I see her more than you guys see her. So I am so happy to be back here. My name is Reverend Crystal Muldrow. And today I'm going to be talking about Through the Eyes of Babes. Kinda. I'm going to be speaking about how we can move beyond all the challenges that we're going through and to see anew. And by the way, early happy Halloween. And this talk came about for a number of reasons. One, because I've been speaking about this a little bit here and there. The other reason is because with Halloween coming and looking at all the costumes and seeing all the shows with all the cute kids in the costumes and the parents in costumes, it came to my memory, it came to my mind that even though Halloween comes once a year, how many of us live within a costume of our own making? That we are always in some form of a mask. It could be a mask of protection. It could be a mask of just survival. But that we're not really able to truly be and show ourselves completely. We're not able to show ourselves completely because we're not able to see things anew. Where we're stuck in the rut and the mire of our days, just seeing the sludge and the steady movement that we have to make. And a lot of times, hopefully, it can be joy-filled, but still, as adults, the older we get, the more it seems like we become slower moving, slower to change, and slower to see the things that are always in front of us, because we believe that we've seen them before, we've seen them a million times, that they don't change. After a while, we gloss over even the beautiful phony tree over there. But look at the colors, especially in certain light. It changes. It's quite beautiful. But because we come in day after day, see the same things day after day, we no longer see them for what they are. We get stuck. So this talk is really about becoming unstuck, being able to see everything anew, and most importantly, being able to get back to a place where you are living heaven on earth. This talk, in some ways, also comes from what Jesus said in Matthew 18, 1 through 6. And I'll read it to you, and then we'll just kind of discuss it, because there's a deeper level that I would like you to explore. It starts at the time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a child in front of him. And he put among them and said, "Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like a child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. For whoever becomes humble," some Bibles it's meek, "like this child, you will not be able to come in the kingdom." You know, I used to listen to that. That gets thrown around in traditional Christianity all the time. And I don't know about you, but I'd always go, what do you mean you have to become like a child? Do I have to revert? Do I have to act silly? Do I have to play? Well, that's nice. I think play is good. But really, let's look metaphysically at what becoming a child is. What is the kingdom of heaven, first of all? Why do we want to be in it, and where is it at? The kingdom of heaven, well, Tim just pointed to himself, so the kingdom of heaven is Tim. And John, since he said, and they're both correct. Because I believe what they're saying is that the place where the kingdom of heaven resides is within. And it is right here, right now, if you make the choice to live there. And where is the kingdom of hell? Thank you, Tim, for being so honest. Again, the kingdom of heaven or hell is all of our making and is here, right now. So this says to us that we will be able to enter the kingdom of heaven, a place of love, a place that is right here, right now of our making if we become childlike. So let's explore that a little bit more. Yes, what does a child bring to the world? Especially a young, bright-eyed child. I see, what does your son bring to your life that was new and sparkling? Brings a new insight, appreciation for curiosity, yes, all of it. Enthusiasm. Wow, someone's been training you guys really well. You guys are, ask the question that's coming back at me. More, what else? What does your daughter bring to you? Spunk. Energy, play. But the one word I want to concentrate on right now is curiosity. As a baby comes about, at first when it's a baby, its eyes aren't clear, but it's still curious. It's trying to figure out what are all these blurred shapes. And as the child grows, it becomes in awe with everything. This child becomes in bliss with everything, curious about everything. The child, in its infinite wisdom, also has play, enjoys the echo of the hallway and hearing themselves. I mean, come on, how many of us have gone into an echo chamber and go, "Wah!" and acted like a child? It's kind of fun. It is. How many people love the true laughter of children? What does it do to your heart? It makes it sing, it unfolds you. Becoming like a child doesn't necessarily mean that you have to suck your thumb or throw temper tantrums. No. In many ways, we're already acting like that child. Becoming like a child is using something called our ego. Now, it's interesting that our ego in so many ways, especially in unity, I'm a Buddhist monk. It also is said this in Buddhism, that we need to kill our ego. Now, being a Buddhist, that always surprises me when I hear a Buddhist monk talking about killing their ego when you're not supposed to be killing anything. But I won't go there. I don't understand that. But Charles Fillmore, in his infinite wisdom, talks about the ego in this manner. He states that the ego is the I. The ego is man, and by reason, because of its divinity, man, woman's divinity, we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to create. The ego of itself is nothing more than a child floating in the mind of God. The ego, in its true sense, is a child filled with wonder, appreciating all of God's greatness, being in the moment, seeing everything new. But what we confuse the ego, as Charles Fillmore defines it, is an adverse ego. A child in a temper tantrum who's scared, fearful, and acting out of that fear. How many of you can envision a child that you see throwing a temper tantrum? How does that feel? It gets you tense. You just want to get away from it. You want to do anything and everything that you can to make that child shut up. And so in that manner, so does our ego do anything and everything to get out of it unless we take control of that. Just like in parenthood, our ego needs a foundation, a spiritual foundation in which it can grow. And anytime it gets adverse, it needs that comforting of God to allow it to be able to move beyond the fears, move beyond the challenges of the temper tantrum, and to get back to a place of love, of happiness. I mean, think back at our children. How many times has a child seriously injured itself? I mean, broken an arm. How many times has a child broken an arm? And they're crying. And as soon as the cast is on and the pain is gone, what are they doing? They're up and playing. They have no consciousness of any idea that they should be holding it or taking care of it like us adults. No, if we break something, we are in fear of it. We think we need to move slower because what the world says is that the older we get, the slower we get, and the more fragile we become, and we buy into that. No. A child doesn't remember it. A child is taking it off the sling, it's flinging the arm, it's asking for pretty artwork on it. A child forgets, it doesn't hold on to it, it starts anew. So when we're talking about becoming into the kingdom of God, it's like that child who isn't holding on to the pain. It is in the kingdom of God because it is enjoying the glee at that moment, enjoying the play in that moment, enjoying the beauty in that moment that is God's creation. For if heaven is within and is all around us, then we're already in heaven. We're already here once we open our eyes. Now, I must have to admit that I stole this title, Through the Eyes of Babes, from this book that I'd like to share a story with you. It's called The Woman Who Walked to Paradise by Reverend Dr. Robert Fish, who used to be the homiletics teacher at Unity Seminary. And I read this to you because I think it illustrates perfectly, and I'll read it to you. Usually I'll just say the story, but I love his verbiage, so I will try to read it, bring out my theater, which I took no theater, but anyway. It begins. A few weeks ago, I was in my favorite neighborhood coffee shop, enjoying a hot cup and a bright early morning. It was my place, a cafe I had been coming to for over 3 years. A father came in with his child, about 12, 16 months old, in a stroller, and they settled in the table right next to me. The child was beautiful, wide-eyed, and totally present. While his father read the newspaper and sipped his latte, the boy looked around calmly but intensely, looking at everything. I could almost hear the neurons clicking, growing, interacting, sending elaborate electrochemical signals across the neuron fibers. He was reading patterns, colors, sounds, making grand interpretations of a vast and wonderful world. If he could talk, I felt he'd be saying, "Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow." Then he turned his head and looked up and over his shoulders. His eyes locked onto something, and he held his position like a bird dog at point. It couldn't have been comfortable for him, and I wondered what it was that fascinated him so. My eyes followed his gaze. Between the plate glass window and the ceiling was a section of stained glass, and 1.5 feet high and about 8 feet long. The morning sun was streaming through it. I stared at it in amazement. I had never seen it before. In the more than 3 years I've been coming to this coffee house, I had never seen this stained glass. Incredible. I was reminded of when my son was a child and how he constantly surprised me with what he saw in the world. I miss that. I've lost that way of seeing. Sometimes I get back to it for a few moments at a time. But wouldn't it be more fun to have a child around to be your guide? Yeah. Some of the parents here are going, well, not 100% of the time, I can tell you, but in those sparkling times, my dear brothers and sisters, you are the beloved child. The truth of who you are once you take off the mask and the costumes are that each and every one of us is that beloved child of God. Deep within us is that Christed nature. You know, we believe that only Jesus, the Christ, was the one and only Christ. But even Jesus said in the Bible that you, as he was talking to disciples, will do this and more. Even Jesus knew that we had more to give, even more than Jesus Christ. It's in the Bible. So why do we place these masks and these costumes over us on our daily lives? Now, it's all right to be individual. It's all right to be who you are, shine the way you do, whether it's silly or playful. It's all right to be that. because that's a beautiful individual expression of God. But I invite you as you go through your day, especially when you're walking past the same thing, maybe it's something in your house, maybe it's your porch, maybe your porch needs painting. So instead of going up to your porch and going, oh God, when am I going to get to this painting? It's Christmas time and I can't paint it, but look at that paint chipping off. Look at it a new way. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a museum and looked at a painting of paint chipping off, and that was the whole thing, because what was beautiful were all the colors behind it, were the patterns that it made. And that too is art. So your porch that is chipping away paint, look at it anew. Look at the patterns that it's making. Look at the colors behind it. Look at the beauty of it, because it is your choice to think of it as good or bad, as beautiful or not, as heaven here on earth or as hell. It is truly your choice. So I invite you to take a lesson in this little babe, in any little babe who is excited in every moment, of every sound, of every vision, of every movement. Become that child again. Become the truth of who you are. And that'll allow you to free yourself from the hindrance. Free yourself from the grind of the world. The grind of the world will come to you. The world is change. I'm not going to stand up here and say that if you become a child, no wrong will happen to you. No distress will come to you. No, that is the world. But you will be able to navigate anything that comes to you that's disturbing with new eyes and more peace. And really, isn't that what we want? To be out of the chaos, to be out of the pain, to be out of the fear. And Lord knows the world is throwing a lot of fear at us right now. You can see it on TV, you can see it on the internet, you can see it through the politicians. I don't care what side it is. It is there. How can we break away from it? To see it anew. To see it through the eyes of the baby that is truly you. Namaste. God bless you, and thank you for having me here.